Let's return to tomorrow night's budget, and the battle is already on over family benefits and childcare. The Social Services Minister, Scott Morrison, joins us now from Parliament House. Scott Morrison, thanks for your time this morning. Jenny Macklin was on our program just in the last hour, restating the opposition won't budge on those family tax benefits. Where does that leave your childcare proposals now?
Well, I'm not surprised that the Labor Party would continue to be reactionary. I mean, what we've seen in the UK, I mean, Bill Shorten is the new Ed Miliband of Australian politics, and they'll continue to go down their reactionary approach. We anticipated that. That's why for some time now I've been engaging with a number of crossbenchers about this and the other packages we released last week on the pensions, and we'll continue to have those dialogues over time. And look, that's the process. But you've got to pay for what you're spending on. The Labor Party doesn't seem to understand that. They think you can just spend and never have to be called to account for it. We understand that, and that's why we have savings in the social services portfolio to pay for the additional $3.5 billion we want to put into families who with low and middle incomes, who are disadvantaged and vulnerable. We think it's a responsible package.
Is it actually reactionary though? Because you knew the Labor Party's stance on this, didn't you? The family tax benefits, Part B. You knew that that would be their reaction, and now it's just a matter of whether or not you can convince them that this childcare outweighs the stance they've taken.
Well, it's a different proposition. The proposition now is to invest the savings in increased support for families on low and middle incomes and who are disadvantaged and vulnerable. Now, it's predictable that the Labor would be completely political about this. Fortunately, I think crossbenchers are being far more constructive about these issues. We'll see what the Greens are like under their new, more pragmatic leadership as it's been built, and we will have the professional discussions you would expect us to have, and that's where we're heading with this. But it's all about ensuring that we're better spending the money that we have in the social services portfolio. 8 out of 10 income taxpayers go to work every day, and their income tax is what is required to pay the $150 billion bill. Now, we have to spend it better. We don't think you should be increasing taxes or increasing the deficit to pay for increased investments.
Your childcare proposals were roundly applauded yesterday. I haven't heard much opposition to them. In fact, Jenny Macklin said to us this morning that she thinks they're good. The only thing she doesn't like about them is it's going to take a long time to bring them in. So it's not a matter of convincing people about your childcare package, is it? And I just wonder, from what you've said there, are you anticipating your best shot of getting these things through is through the crossbenchers to change their minds on family tax benefits?
Well, I think once again Labor have dropped the ball when it comes to fiscal responsibility. They like spending money, they just never want to pay for it. And so that means that once again the crossbenchers will have to be placed in the middle of this discussion, and that's whom we'll have the professional and I think very constructive process with. And that's what the requirement is when you're working through a parliamentary democracy. I wish Labor would be more constructive than they are, but they clearly want to do opposition for opposition's sake. That's their political choice, but I don't think that's what families want to hear. Families want to hear that we're able to actually pay for the things that we're doing, and this is a good package. It's a very responsible package. It's a very fair package, and it's all designed to do one thing: help families have the choice to be in work, stay in work, get in work, because so many families have to be in work.
It's a long-term approach, really, isn't it? Many of the mothers that might be able to get access to the childcare that you're talking about may not have had their children yet. Why not bring that forward and plan to have those changes earlier?
Well, because they're implementation issues. What we're also doing at the same time is introducing a whole new technology support system to ensure that there's greater integrity in the system, there's greater ease of compliance for families and the service providers themselves. Now, you're not going to go and do that change twice, once with the old system and also with the new system. And so this is just a sensible, common sense approach. I mean, when we went to the sector and we talked about this, they preferred it to be introduced on a financial year basis, and so that puts us to July 17 rather than 6 months earlier than that. But even doing it 6 months earlier than that with the technology issues would be problematic. So we're not going to overpromise here. We're going to get the implementation right. The previous government made all sorts of problems in rushing their implementation, and it all basically crashing and burning. We're going to get the implementation right.
Just to be clear on that before I move to another matter, Matthias Cormann was on our program about half an hour ago and basically said that you couldn't afford to do it yet. It wasn't about implementation. So which is correct?
Well, it is about implementation, and I don't think accept your characterisation of the way the Finance Minister has responded to your question. I mean, these are the issues that we've all got to deal with, but as the Minister responsible for social services, when it comes to implementation, that's the date it can be introduced properly.
Have you been able to identify other areas where you can make cuts in your portfolio?
We already have, and the Treasurer announced another one of them yesterday, and that was the issue of double dipping on paid parental leave. That was a proposal by the Social Services portfolio, and got support of the Treasurer and the Prime Minister. And what this is doing, let me be clear, if someone is getting a lesser paid parental leave payment than they would otherwise get from the taxpayer, then their paid parental leave will be topped up. But if they are getting exactly the same or more from their employer, then you don't get to go to the well twice. This is an integrity measure. Basically, the scheme has had people having a loan of it who are frankly on much larger incomes, get the full 18 weeks from their employer and then turn around to the taxpayer and I'll have that again, please. So I don't think that's fair.
And Scott Morrison, is it accurate that this might save you $1 billion? Is that figure what you've come to there?
Correct.
Okay, and how many mothers have been double dipping?
Well, it's at various degrees. You've got around about 20,000 odd who have been taking the full amount from their employers and then turning up for the full amount from the taxpayer, and you've got a slightly higher number than that who are been claiming a partial payment.
How many on top of that? Sorry, I'm just.
Well, the total figure is about 47% of those claiming paid parental leave currently have either been overclaiming or completely double dipping. And so that's the practice we'll be putting an end to, because it's frankly just not fair. If you're working for a small business that doesn't have a paid parental leave scheme, why should you get less paid parental leave than someone who's working for a big public service entity or a big corporate? It's just not fair.
Yeah, and well, it's true, it does sound a bit unfair, but when was this uncovered? Well,
this was put up during the course of this budget.
Okay, so but when did you find out that some 20,000 plus people were double dipping?
Well, it was a proposal that came through the department in the course of this budget.
Okay, and are there any other cuts that you're going to flag as part of your portfolio, or is that it now, or will we hear more tomorrow on that?
The budget's tomorrow night, and the Treasurer has the ball lined up to kick it through the goals, and I'm sure he'll do exactly that, and we're all there supporting him as part of a strong team. I mean, what you've seen over the last few weeks is the government laying out what we're proposing to do here, and what we're trying to do here is unlock the potential of all Australians so they can make the biggest contribution they can for themselves and their families, and as a result the country benefits.
What do you make of the commentary, I guess you're sort of alluding to it a little bit there, the commentary that you've been the chief salesman and that Joe Hockey's been left out in the cold on those big announcements that people would be more favourable to?
I just dismiss it as the usual Canberra hyperventilation that goes on when people don't want to focus on what was really occurring, and that is the government is making some significant changes in this budget to the way we operate pensions to make that fairer. We're going to improve the pension for some 170,000 pensioners currently, and we're going to deliver a Jobs for Families package, which is going to give families choice because they need to be in work, so many families these days. And how people want to look after their kids is up for them. They're their personal decisions, but increasingly, we all know mothers work hard, but increasingly the majority also need to be in paid employment, and that's what this package does. It's not a welfare initiative, childcare. It's actually helping families to frankly get off welfare by ensuring they can be in a job and stay in a job.
Scott Morrison, thanks for your time, and you've got plenty of negotiations to come as well. So
we do. Thanks, Paul.
We'll leave it there. Thank you.
All right, and the comments about the forthcoming budget and indeed these particular changes, this policy, are rolling in this morning. Let's see if I can very quickly call them up. Selnort says we went from single income families to both parents wanting to work to both having to work. So much for the